All right, now we'll come to the third video. Now this video, we will start getting a little bit more serious about this Node.js. I have an example called test JSON. Now JSON, if you're not familiar with it, is a very powerful data format, and it's becoming the standard or the choice of transfer data back and forth. It's a format that allows you to transfer data, or that you use it to transfer data back and forth. So in this example, just to give you a brief description of what JSON is, I have an object. When JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So I have an object called employee. This employee can have properties and values. So the first element in a JavaScript, in an object, a JSON object, is that it has, to define it as an object, you have this bracket here, curly bracket here, and curly bracket here to signify the end of that object. Inside of that object, you can have what we call, what we have is attribute and then value. So it's like pairs of attribute and value. So this is my attribute. That attribute is called name. The next one after it, after the column, is my value. So name, and then the value is Omar. Gender, and the value of it is male. Married, and it's Boolean. Now, you could have different types of data type. All the data types that you can have, you can define. Most of the data types that you can have, you know, can be represented in JSON. So you can have string, you can have double, you can have float, you can have date, you can have Boolean, you can have string, integer. All of this can be represented in this JSON. Okay. So, but the basic structure of JSON is all the same. Attribute, value. Attribute, value separated by comma. The object name is employee, and how do you make it an object? You put a bracket around it, curly bracket around it. Next thing you do is that you can define arrays of objects. Not only one object, you can actually define multiple objects. In this case, the only difference between this example and the one above it, you have these square brackets. Here you have a square bracket here and square bracket here. These square brackets tells me that this is an array. Inside of it, you can put objects, you can put any values, but in this case, because it's a JSON, we say this array has two objects in it. The first object, again, it's an employee object, Omar, name, gender, male, and so forth. And then here is my second object, okay? So employees has two JSON object, employee has one object. How do I retrieve these attributes and their values? Okay, so I have an example in this case. In this case, I'm saying for every from 0 to the length of the arrays in that object, in that to the length of the array in employees. So for every if we have 2, we'll have 2 in here. And then I++. What are we doing here? I'm going to print on the console. This is the array of objects. I is the first element because I'm starting with 0. I'm starting with 0. So it will be first element. What is the first element? This is my first object in that array. So I equals 0. And then here, name. So how do you get the property? You use these attribute name, gender, married. So here's how you get them. So I print out the name, let employee info equal, I'm concatenating a string together, the name equal the employee name, comma, semicolon, I add to it the gender, okay? Here's my gender from the array. And then I check if it's married, we say false. No, if it's married, false, we say single. Else, we say married. And then you do this, and at the end, you print it out. And then after you print it, you make it equal to blank. then you repeat this again for all the elements in the object in the array. The point of this is that of this whole exercise, how do you define JSON objects, array of objects, and how do you retrieve the values and then print them out? In this example, we are printing them out, but think about this. This could be not just printing them out, could be serving it on a page, could be downloading into an app, many uses for this, okay? So that is another example. I'm going to stop in this video, but that is another example of how to use JavaScript and JSON in Node.js. To run it, just to show you, Node.js, and then Node, and then what's the name of it? Test JSON.js, and then hit enter. Okay, so here is my, actually, that was a, I didn't save this. Okay, let me run it again. Let me run it again. Okay, here is my code, here is my output. Okay, here is my output from that code. All right, so we'll stop with this. In the next video, I'll show you how we start to use Node.js as what it is intended for, as a server. Okay.